Alright, let's do this. It would seem I have started the discourse. TM. Good morning, everybody. My name is Louis Vuitton. Oh dear, this is. There we are, that's better. Hang on, how's that look? That's better. It's dark over here. Alright, hang on. There we are. That's better. What's up? My name is Louis Vuitton. Thank you for stopping by. Professional streamer, I know. So, let me, of course, open this stream by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land from which I'm coming to you, live from. That would be the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Welcome any Indigenous people joining us today. So, if this is your first time stopping by, well then, as you can probably tell, I'm not an American. I'm an Australian, left-wing progressive YouTuber and Twitch streamer who likes to talk about things like workers' rights, minority rights, in particular trans and indigenous rights, and also masculinity. That's a fun topic. I always like delving into. I like to talk about what's hot about masculinity and what's not. So yeah. I do prepare content over on my YouTube channel. Dropped a video about a week and a half ago. Yeah. Subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter for more banger takes like the one we're going to talk about today. And there's also a Discord link and a link to Streamlabs if you're feeling so inclined. As you can see from the border of the screen, we have our daily dono goal to buy me a pizza. I do love pizza, but I am a poor student. So hey, if you have a couple of extra dollars lying around you don't know what to do with, throw them my way. So yeah. Also, I had a bit of a break from streaming last week. Not intentionally, I just ended up being busy. Having quite a few late nights, so that getting up in the morning to stream was a bit of a pain. Because as I said, I'm not American, I'm Australian. I get up in the morning early, my time to stream. It's 7 a.m. here. So having a late night does tend to affect streaming. It's not that fun. But yeah, back now, alright? Because hey, I love streaming. I love talking about everything related to politics. And I really hope that we get some people in today because ultimately, that's what I'm here for. Anyway, so the story behind the title of this stream and the reason that it's the topic of today's stream. So on Twitter yesterday, I was scrolling through, didn't spend a whole lot of time on Twitter yesterday or even the day before. Shocking, I know. I was only on there for like 10 minutes or something collectively, which is not as nearly enough as much time as I spend there normally. And I saw a YouTube channel by the name of Sean Head, I'm sure you're aware of, taking shots at people who oppose withdrawing from Afghanistan now. Now, it's not her take so much that I have a problem with her, even though I do. It's more the fact that whenever Sean Head has a take that people disagree with, she won't defend it. Which is fine. She's under no obligation to. It's kind of her MO, having a take, and then it's other people who end up talking about it. You know, like the Branch Davidican taker. I don't know if she actually talked about it at all, but it ended up being the topic of Twitch politics for a week. That's the problem I have. Not defending a take. She has a massive platform, and that like using it in that way of not really elaborating on issues. I know that me, back in the day, as an impressionable young adult, would be very easily swayed to any kind of knee-jerk reactions. Anyway, so what people disagreed with was, well, basically saying that I said it was a bad take. I didn't elaborate. Everyone took that to mean that I support forever war in Afghanistan or even the Middle East. So right at the top of this, let me be perfectly clear. I do not support forever war in the Middle East. I would love to leave Afghanistan. I would love to leave the Middle East. My country was dragged in there by America. It's America's war, not mine. Unfortunately, then Prime Minister John Howard was quite the... how can I say this in a... How can I say this in a way that's not TOS? Then Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard, was very keen to impress George Bush and show his loyalty. Very keen on that. So despite it not being our war, Australia went to Afghanistan after 9/11. So yeah, I would love to leave. However, I'm no expert on the subject, but from what I've seen, leaving now, just pulling straight out, not the best time. And I know everyone's going to say, well, when is? And I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for you. Even experts on this field don't have that exact answer. But what they can tell you is that now's not the time. If you want to listen to an expert who's talked about this subject, go watch Dylan Burns' video. Dylan Burns has made videos about this exact topic, about pulling out from Afghanistan. Dylan Burns is an expert on foreign policy. That's his bread and butter. I'm not. I have a competent understanding of geopolitics and foreign policy. Passing, like, just a very basic competency. I'm not going to boast about it or anything. But that's his bread and butter. He's made videos on this. Zanderhall as well has looked into it. He's actually taken, like, as someone who's a layman, he's actually taken a look into the issue and done research. And he's come to the same conclusion, that now is a bad time. Right now, the Taliban is on the rise in Afghanistan. They're taking back territory. There's been peace talks that have failed because the US has announced it'll pull out. And yeah, there's historical precedent for this as well. Because guess what? Guess how the Taliban got there in the first place? After the Russians left Afghanistan, guess who rolled in? Guess who rolled in? The Russians pulled out the same way that America is, probably even quicker. They just pulled straight out, and the Taliban just walked in. So, despite how much I oppose the war in Afghanistan, I cannot, in good conscience, leave the people of Afghanistan at the mercy of the Taliban, and or Russia and China. Actually, it should really be and Russia and or China, because let's be honest, in natural resource rich countries like Afghanistan, Russia and China aren't going to stay out of there. The second that America withdraws, they'll see that as an opportunity to get in. Come on, it's a no-brainer. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we stay there forever to keep Russia and China out and to keep the Taliban out, but until Afghanistan can stand on its own two legs, we shouldn't pull out. And I'm sorry, but I don't know when that is. But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to talk about pulling out now. And I can tell you, from what I've seen, now's not the time. I don't know, I think it was last week, I talked about a story on stream. It was talking about Australian soldiers pulling out of Afghanistan. And even just that one article, the one article that was talking about Australians pulling out, because I think there's no Australian troop presence there anymore. I think there's still some military advisors, but in terms of boots on the ground soldiers, I believe Australia has pulled out, which is a crazy thought because that war's been going on for almost. I mean, the war's almost as old as I am. It's actually crazy to think that they might be pulling out. But yeah, I really worry about what's going to happen to the people of Afghanistan if we do, because I don't like the Taliban. I'm not sure what the education is like in America, but over here in Australia, even at a primary school level, we looked at the situation in Afghanistan. It would usually be done through the lens of creative pieces, through novels that are designed to present these ideas to youth, to talk about the situation over there, the themes of like religious fundamentalism and tyranny, the abuse of rights, things like that. So I learned from a very young age that the Taliban is bad. So perhaps people in America aren't as familiar, because, I mean, we can talk about the American education system, but if the Taliban takes over Afghanistan again, well, for one, they have stated that they would love a theocratic system like Iran, having religious heads or religious leaders as the head of the country. So already, that's not cool. Anti-democracy. It's a pretty big mark against them. I'm a big fan of democracy. Anyway, we can look forward to abuse of civil rights, such as women not being allowed to leave the home without their husband, brother, or father, or son accompanying them. If they do, then they have to go around with a note written by a male figure. Actually, with a note written by a male figure in their life and pin it to the front of their burqa, which is another thing. If the Taliban take over, then you can expect that it'll be mandated that women cover their entire body, head to foot, anytime they go outside. Public executions, that's going to be another thing. Women being banned from working, and no doubt education as well, I'm sure. I don't know that for sure, but like, if they're going to go that far, they're definitely going to ban women from education as well. No doubt some child marriage as well. I'm sure that's going to happen. And this isn't even beginning to talk about what will happen when Russia and China starts to step in. If we have these countries that are rich with natural resources, they're not going to stay out. And we could already see how China treats its own people. I don't think they're going to be gentle with the Afghanis. Oh, and another thing, the Taliban, I have only seen this briefly, but the Taliban are committing genocide against, I believe it's Hazara Afghanis. I don't know the details there, but yeah, that's another thing that I would like to not happen. I would like to oppose genocide. I'm not so keen on supporting that, and I'm not saying that if you support withdrawal from Afghanistan, that you do support genocide, but that is part of the fallout from just pulling the knife out. Because, hey, if you stab someone, it's no good just to pull the knife out, because what happens when you pull it out? When you pull the knife out, blood starts gushing out of the wound. So yeah, we stabbed that country, and have been doing so for longer than the last 20 years, but it's no good just to pull the knife out and be like, okay, you're good now, I pulled the knife out. There's still a wound there, and when a knife gets pulled out, the wound starts bleeding. So yeah, there's a civil war going on right now in Afghanistan. The Taliban are threatening, I think it's the capitals of, I think it's 12 provinces. So yeah, they're gaining ground. There was that video I saw a couple of weeks ago of the Taliban riding on top of an old Soviet tanker, which I don't know how they got after all these years, unless they were keeping it for a real long time, because it's been decades since the Soviets were last in Afghanistan. So yeah. And I know these are the same talking points that people have used to justify staying in Afghanistan forever in the past. But yeah, I don't support forever war. I think it's a pretty easy point to make, but I don't support pulling out if it's going to leave Afghanistan at the mercy of the Taliban and Russia and or China. I feel like that's a pretty defensible take. There was a survey done in 2019, I think, which was done on how much support there was amongst people in Afghanistan for all the US withdrawing from Afghanistan. And a majority of people supported them withdrawing after a peace deal was reached between the Taliban and the Afghani government. So, hey, sounds like a good idea to me. Unfortunately, it doesn't look likely now. Because like I said earlier, there was plans for a peace talk, but because it was like a week before it was supposed to happen, the United States announced that it was pulling out. So suddenly Afghanistan's government is in a weaker position, so naturally the Taliban pulled out of the negotiation. Come on. Still butt fucking them. We're on our way out. And we're still making the situation worse. Well, it'll be a whole lot worse once we do pull out. Also, getting off the topic of Afghanistan, I want to talk about having the take itself. Because when I said, like, oh, this is a bad take that Shornhead won't defend, one of the replies was that basically turning it back on me, like, oh, I'm having a bad take, but I won't defend it. And yet, here I am. So I posted a link to my Twitch and said, okay, I'll be live 5 PM EST if anyone disagrees. Feel free to call in. And people weren't happy about that either. Now, there were some people who were saying, like, oh, this is clout chasing, and yeah, that's how this business works. This business works by networking, alright? That's how, like, I'm not going to apologize for clout chasing when I'm a smaller channel. Yeah, that's how this business works. If I get some traction online, especially when it's about something political, then you bet I'm going to plug myself. That's a no-brainer, come on. But the thing is, I'm not doing it for some empty, shallow reason. I'm doing it because this is my belief, and I'm sticking by it. If I have a take, whatever it is, like whatever, any of my beliefs, any of the values that I hold, I'll absolutely be willing to defend them. I'm always willing to square up. Which is more than I can say for some people, because, oh, look at that. Everybody who disagreed, where are they? Well, they're not here now, and again, they're under no obligation. But hey, I'm sticking by what I said. This is my take, I'm sticking by it, and I'm here to defend it. Because I have no problem whatsoever with someone calling me out, on a value I hold and me defending it. That's the business. I love that. That's why I love politics. I'm not some coward who's going to run away from a value they hold, even if it's an unpopular one. And I'm very willing to acknowledge that this is an unpopular one. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't like the prospect of forever war in Afghanistan. But opposing a sudden withdrawal now does not mean you support forever war, which is something that other people were trying to say. Yeah. See, it's funny, you say that, and yet you can't justify why. The way that I see it is that this situation is so fucked, so that a lot of people just feel like it's just rip the band-aid off and forget about it, walk away, and whatever happens happens. The situation seems so helpless that, and there seems like there's no end in sight, that it's best to just forget about it. Sometimes it's easier to let something fall apart, than it is to try and keep it together. And I understand that mindset. But yeah, I don't think this is the time. Because anybody who disagrees with this idea of opposing withdrawing now, which is my position, they're not considering all the factors at play. They're not considering the Taliban taking back power. They're not considering Russia and China having a greater presence in the Middle East, because countries like Russia already have a foothold in that area. So yeah, I don't think you're looking at all the factors. It's not as simple as just we pull out. I think it's a selfish mindset to just disregard the people of Afghanistan. 30 million people that live in that country. And it does not sit right with me just leaving them to the Taliban. Just leaving them to Russia. And again, I'm not saying that anybody who advocates pulling out defends the action of the Taliban or defends genocide or is even comfortable with the reality of leaving them to the mercy of these groups. All I want to see is someone defend that position. That's it. And I haven't seen that yet. There was a panel last week, I think, that Hans Vakir did, talking about foreign interventionism. Talking about just this broad subject of America having a presence in other countries. And there was mostly... There was 6 people, and it was really only 2 people. One of them's Infrared, who's the tanky, and the other one, I can't remember what their name is, but I think they're a tanky as well. The justification they have for not intervening in other countries is basically just a very knee-jerk reaction to the idea. Now, I'm not a big fan of intervening in other countries, because I'm not a big fan of state power. But if it... but if it is in the service of some greater good, which again is a very abstract it's a very abstract concept. Yeah, I would support that. Now, that's not really the argument when it comes to Afghanistan, because remember, we went there first. But now, at this point, when the country is weakened and fending off the Taliban, well, yeah, interventionism is a lot more defensible. And yes, I know we went there first, alright? There's no point talking about if things could be different in the past. All we can talk about is how the situation is now. And right now, the situation is that it would be beyond irresponsible for us to just leave Afghanistan to the Taliban. But it seems like it's going to happen anyway, alright? So I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth being so anti-foreign interventionism. Because I wonder how much longer it'll be until we're back there once the Taliban take over. I'd also like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that the majority of the 9/11 attackers were Saudi Arabian, and that we also have evidence that the Saudi government assisted the terrorist attacks. However, it was Afghanistan we invaded. I wonder why that was. Wonder why that was. And also, Americans, you're cool with having Saudi Arabia as an ally? Alright. Well, it doesn't seem like anybody's going to show up to argue with me on this take. That's okay. I figured either there'd be a fuck ton of people or there'd be no one. And it seems like we're getting no one. No problem. I'm not bothered. Because hey, like I said, if I have a take, I'm very willing to defend it. With other people, I'm going to call in on that take. That's boring. I have no problem. Oh hey, what's up, Bob Robinson? Oh no, like absolutely. I understand that position so much. It's such a fucked situation. And that's why I've done like so much prefacing of this topic. I'm making it very clear that I don't have a solution. I don't know what the solution is, and that I'm making it very clear that I don't support forever wars. My only position is that now is not the time to pull out. It's really fucked up. It's an untenable situation. However, I feel like, given what we do know, with historical precedent and the rise of the Taliban happening again now, I feel like it's a pretty defensible position to say that to suddenly pull out, now's not the time. Slash the US military government in half and give it all to the Afghan government for infrastructure. I don't know. I really don't know. I need to look more into Dylan Burns' content because he's talked about this a whole lot more. It's his area of expertise. I don't know if the US government's about to give half of its military budget to Afghanistan, though. That would be that'd be a sight to see. I will say that. And like, one of the reasons that Biden said that he wants to pull out of Afghanistan is to devote more resources to competing militarily with China. Like, okay, so we pull out of one war and instead get into a cold war with China. Brilliant plan. Brilliant plan. Seriously. This is the kind of stuff that, this is the alternative we're looking forward to. Jesus. This idea that we can fight China in a hot war. Fucking brain dead, seriously. It's so boring. But yeah. He talked about how competing with China, dealing with the threat of North Korea. North Korea is not a threat, seriously. If North Korea ever makes any kind of overtures to military force, then Japan will take care of them. Now that would mean that China would step in, but Japan would love a reason to go to war with China. Japan's bound by its non-aggression pact, so it can't go to war with anyone, but Japan could very easily use an argument for self-defense to justify a war with China. So anyway, the point is, North Korea is not a threat. That's silly to imagine that a country as poor as North Korea is a threat. Biden's also talked about Iran and Iran's nuclear program as being a threat to the United States. Great. So it means that we're going to go to war with Iran. Oh dear. Anyway, again, it's a bad situation. Either way, all I'm saying is that now's not the time. And if you don't like that answer, I'm sorry. You're going to have to go somewhere else because I don't have another one. But that's all I've got to say. Alright. Let's get off this accursed topic. If anybody does rock up to argue about it, fine. But I talked about it for like the last half an hour straight. And I'm a little bored. To be perfectly honest, the US military could maintain its size at half the price. It's really just inefficient at the current moment. Hundreds of rusting Abrams in the desert, never driven. I mean, it's just about money. It's just about defense contractors, lobbying the government to get the government contracts. It's just all about money. Like, arguing that the military isn't bloated is a pretty niche position. Anyway, since nobody has rocked up to defend this accursed take, let's instead learn how to deal with woke friends. Now, as someone who is fairly woke himself, I don't know, maybe this will help me become a better person to talk to my friends. Maybe there's some social faux pas I'm committing as a woke person. So, let's learn how I can be a better friend with Prager University, our old friends.
Okay, so we've got another question from a Prager Force student here. She says,
oh boy, James Lindsay.
I think many of my woke friends and family started down the path with good intentions, just wanting to be against racism and for equality. But it seems like all of a sudden they're talking about dismantling capitalism, they're justifying violence as long as it's on their side, and ignoring any facts that contradict their narrative. Why does this seem to brainwash?
Well, how long until they put on a pair of cat ears? It sounds pretty cool. They started at a pretty basic liberal level and moving further left. Awesome. The only thing I disagree with is this idea of facts that contradict their narrative. What kind of facts? Where are you getting those facts from?
Brainwash people so quickly, and is it even possible to wake up someone who's woke?
That's
another simple one for you.
No, that one's really hard. In fact, that one's really hard. I honestly, so woke is like I hate to say it this way given the circumstances, but woke is like a spectrum. But you could think of it like with a religion, like with Christianity. You've got probably the pastors really into it. The theologians are.
Well, no, religion is dogma, leftist or even liberal ideology, fairly defensible. Most of those, if not all of those beliefs, are backed up by data. So, what separates wokeism and religion would be dogma.
Really, really into it. And then you have kind of people who go to church and they try to be serious and they're varying degrees of serious. Then you have that, yeah, I'm a Christian, but they probably haven't been to church in 3 months. You have the same things happening in
3 months. Try ever.
Woke. So when you say, can you wake up a woke person? The question is, how far in are they? Are they all out? If they're already defending violence, you're probably going to have a hard time. Mm-hmm. If they're talking about dismantling.
Come on, James. Be reasonable. I would never defend political violence in the name of my ideology. I would never advocate for the victims of systemic violence, systemic racism, systemic abuse, using violence to reach as a means to an end for their political goals. I would never dream of advocating that vulnerable communities use violence against the state in an effort to achieve equality. No, I would never dream of advocating for anything of the sort. Because as we know, there's no historical precedent for vulnerable groups using violence to fight for their rights. Wouldn't dream of it.
Dismantling capitalism, and they're serious about it, you're probably going to have a hard time. If, however, they're kind of, well, I put the black square on my Instagram or whatever, you can probably walk them back still. You can probably show them, this is actually a lot scarier, or this is a lot grosser. Neo-racist is a word that we've been using. It's not racist in the usual sense. It's this neo-racist and new racism that's being reinstalled, and that's kind of gross, really. And you can kind of get that little bit of a gag reflex. You can get them to laugh a little bit and say, yeah, that is kind of...
I just want to say, none of these people would ever be able to tell you what being woke means.
Silly, if you can show them places where the theory is self-contradictory, or where the activities look like they're self-serving or whatever. So you can,
such as, be specific,
and if they're not too far in, wake them up. But if they've gone all the way in, this thing's like a cult, and you can't just wake a cult member up. And that's why it brainwashes people so quickly and effectively, is because it preys upon people's A, desire to be a good person, and B, vulnerabilities that they might not be. And it's tapped so effectively into their social strata, right? So somebody else was just asking, well, I'll get canceled by all my friends. Well, it's so much easier to just start mouthing it and going along with it, and then that social pressure just
cancel culture's a myth.
Makes it so much stronger. So it's difficult, but try to tell the truth, try to be sensitive, and try to be open, because eventually the bubble will burst. And the thing that's most important here is that when somebody comes out of the cult, whether it's woke or whether it's any other cult, you have to be willing and ready to welcome them and affirm them and say, you know what, it's not a big deal, let it go. We're all cool now. You got to be there.
That is a good point, but not for the reason he thinks it is. The right loves welcoming former leftists or former liberals. Not that anybody genuinely leaves the left. If you actually genuinely believe left-wing values, then no one walks away and is like, I am now a Christian conservative. No, that doesn't happen. Except in names of a grift. Anyway, the point of this is that, yeah, that is good because the right does it. The left purity tests to the nth degree. It is just so frustrating that we have people, mostly online, mostly terminally online, who, don't care how much someone's reformed, or until they've reached their arbitrary line for reforming, then they can join. But most of the time, it's, oh, you're a former Nazi? Well, you're not welcome here. But the right, they will welcome you with open arms. So we should take a note out of James Lindsay's book.
Give them an exit ramp and then kind of love bomb them, to be honest with you.
Like, don't take this combative posture or, beat them down. I mean,
don't be like, look what you did. Can you see how terrible you were? You were crazy. But that's not going to help. Invite them in. Glad you're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Glad you're here.
Welcome to the club of reality. You're back in. Welcome back.
Oh, oops, shit. Damn it. Clicked on the video. Ah! Alright, there we go. Well, okay. Turns out that I'm actually a bad friend, because I learnt nothing. Sorry. I'm still woke. There was one thing that I wanted to say about, if you're one of these conservative people that want to talk to your friends. Okay, what happens if you say to your friend, come on, this transgender stuff, this is ridiculous. The concept of men being women. This is silly. Let's just talk about this and de-radicalize you from the worker. okay, well, what happens if that person comes back and is like, oh, here's a piece from, I don't know, the American Psychiatric Association, which affirms the existence and validity of transgender people. What then? Now who's in the cult? Just saying. So, if you have a friend that's like, hey, you're too woke, whatever that means, let's talk about it. Well, then you know that friend is far too gone. Oh, Dim Mama is live. Awesome. Well, I don't know. That's about all I had for you. I talked about my stance on withdrawing from Afghanistan. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised that nobody rocked up to challenge me on it. I'm not surprised at all. But yeah. Anyway, those of you that did stop by, thank you. It means a lot. I love you all. And hey, join your union. Other than that, yeah, have a good one. Go watch Demon Mama, right? I'm gonna go hang out in her chat.